in groups and individually, and learn about them. And then when you do that, they give you everything, because you have to be the first one to give everything as a coach. And so when they wake up every day, I want them to feel, not just know, I want them to feel that they have a coach that's going to give them everything and wants them to succeed. And so that's what we do for each other, and that's our connection. And we're so connected that way, and that doesn't mean it's...
The air in the Team USA practice facility always carried a specific weight, a blend of polished floor wax, fresh leather, and simmering, unspoken ambition. It was a sacred space where legends were forged, and on this particular morning, day 3 of the critical pre-Olympic cycle camp, that weight felt heavier than usual. The schedule had read: light run, film review, routine, almost mundane. But in elite sports, the tectonic plates often shift under the guise of normalcy. The players had filtered in, a constellation of the best women's basketball talent on the planet. There were the easy, raucous laughs of veterans who'd worn the gold medals, the focused silence of newcomers absorbing the aura, and the quiet, professional rustle of gear being prepped.
Eyes on. And I'm just so glad that she came out and said this, because obviously with everything that we've been seeing in the CBA, it's so much drama, it's so much he said, she said, it's so much of the WNBA and the WNBPA coming out trying to spin the narrative and get the public's opinion on their side. But Caitlin Clark has been one, like, she has turned down so many of these off-season leagues. She has turned down all of these other opportunities because she is trying to grow the WNBA. It seems like Caitlin has literally one focus, and it's to play in the WNBA, and it's to uplift the WNBA and women's basketball. And that's
staff, led by a figure whose entire philosophy was etched in the lines of his face, a history of hard-fought wins and gut-wrenching losses, watched it all. His credo, repeated often, was simple but profound. You have to be the first one to give everything as a coach. Give it in groups, give it individually, learn about them, and when you do that, they give you everything back. It's a transaction of total commitment. He believed in connection, a bond forged not in the absence of conflict, but within it. I want them to wake up every day, he'd say, his voice low and steady, and not just know, but feel that they have a coach who's going to give them everything and wants them to succeed. That's what we do for each other. That's our connection. It was a beautiful, fragile concept, building a family where the currency was unconditional investment. The first ripple came not with a shout, but with a glance. A clipboard was adjusted. A rotation sheet was consulted. And then...
when the player needs it. That's another level of facilitating. That's why we say, man, Caitlin Clark is the top guard. All right, y'all start the conversation in the chat, but I'm just saying, Chelsea Gray is a very entertaining passer. All right, very entertaining. Sometimes her flashiness kind of make her throw the ball away and things of that nature, but Caitlin Clark knows how to get that thing in tough spots, all right? Get it in tough spots and get her teammates open, get it to where the teammate can catch the ball.
Frustrated with each other, it's normal, like that's a part of it, conflict's a part of it. And so we work through it together, and we're willing to sit in there and work through it together, and that creates the bond. And then if you can create that bond, then this becomes so much more enjoyable to see them get themselves to an Elite Eight. It was really cool to watch.
During the walkthrough for the first controlled scrimmage of the day, it happened. Without fanfare, without a press release to the waiting world outside, Caitlin Clark was motioned to join the first unit. She nodded, a simple dip of her chin, and trotted onto the floor with the projected starters. The energy in the gym didn't explode. It congealed. It tightened around the moment like skin around a suture. This wasn't a trial run. This was a statement. Everyone felt it, the veterans on the sideline, the assistants holding their breath, the other projected starter, Paige Bueckers, who stood near the sideline, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Her expression wasn't one of anger, but of hyper-focused stillness, as if she was processing data at lightning speed. She didn't argue. She didn't react publicly, but the silence around her stretched, thin and taut, because this wasn't about minutes. It was about architecture. It was about whose hands would shape the clay of this new Team USA era. The whistle blew. The scrimmage began. And Caitlin Clark, The rookie whose name had dominated headlines for 2 years did what Caitlin Clark does. She didn't do it loudly. There was no grand proclamation, no chest thumping. She simply began to conduct. She called the set, her voice clear and unsurprised. She received the inbound, and the entire pace of the game seemed to snap into a sharper, faster rhythm. The ball became a blur, zipping from hand to hand with a purpose it had lacked before. Spacing on the floor, which had been good, became optimal. Driving lanes widened as if by magic. Decisions were made not a split second earlier, but with a preternatural certainty. She hit a cutter with a pass that seemed to bend through a narrow window. A shooter flared to the corner and received the ball perfectly in rhythm. The plays were the same sets the team had been drilling, but they now hummed with a different, more potent voltage. Then, in a transition moment, she crossed half court, glanced at the defense sagging off, and without a hint of dramatics, let fly from the logo. Swish. The net snapped with a sound like a sigh. No celebration, no stare down at the bench. She just turned and jogged back on defense, businesslike, as if she'd simply completed a necessary line of code. The bench didn't erupt. Instead, a collective tension gripped them. A few veterans exchanged a look that said more than any cheer could. This confirmed something a lot of people in that gym, for all her fame, might not have been fully ready to accept. This offense, its very soul, its rhythm and its destiny, now naturally, irresistibly, ran through Caitlin Clark. It wasn't symbolic. It was structural, geometric, and undeniable. Between drills, the whispers started. They weren't the trash-talking, competitive barbs of a normal practice. These were lower, denser whispers of attention. Who's closing games now? Who adjusts? Who sacrifices? The calculus of stardom was being recomputed in real time. Paige Bueckers finally checked into the next segment. Not with the starters. She joined the second unit. It was a subtle demotion, a mere line on a substitution sheet. But in a gym charged with this much subliminal current, nothing was small. She played, of course. She played hard, smart, and efficiently. Every move was professional, polished. But something was off. The flow wasn't the same. The ball didn't find the same seams. The chemistry felt like a slightly mistuned engine. After the drill, Paige didn't stay for extra shots. She didn't work on a specific move. She walked straight to the bench, sat down, and was utterly still. That stillness was louder than any slam. It was then that the coaching staff stepped away, huddling near the sideline. The head coach's philosophy was about to be stress-tested. "It's normal to be frustrated with each other," he would often say. "Conflict's a part of it. We work through it together. We're willing to sit in that uncomfortable room and work through it. That's what creates the bond." But this wasn't a simple frustration. This was a fundamental shift in the ecosystem. An emergency meeting was called. Not with the players. Not yet. First, it was staff only. Assistants, player development coordinators, USA basketball officials. The doors to the main office were closed. Phones, the constant lifelines to the outside world, were set aside. The topic wasn't performance. Caitlin's performance was solving a lot of problems on the court. The topic was fallout. How do you manage a roster of alpha talents, of franchise players, when one individual's gravity is so profound it bends the very system around her? Caitlin wasn't demanding touches or plays. She was creating outcomes. She was a facilitator of the highest order, seeing passing lanes and possibilities that existed in a dimension just ahead of everyone else's. And that changes everything. Rotations, roles, identities. Inside that closed room, the concern wasn't petty drama. It was balance. It was preservation. It was about ensuring that in elevating one transcendent talent, you didn't accidentally dim the light of another. The coach knew that for his philosophy of giving everything to hold, every player had to feel that purpose, that investment. Back on the court, the players felt the delay. The usual rhythm of practice had stalled. They shot around, but their eyes kept flicking toward the closed doors. They knew. Paige finally stood and approached a senior assistant. Their conversation was private, voices hushed. No cameras were near, No microphones could pick it up. But the body language was an open book. Paige's posture was straight, her gestures calm but deliberate. The assistant listened, nodding slowly. This wasn't an outburst of anger. It was a quiet, firm presentation of clarity. The message, though unheard, was clear. It's not about a reduced role. It's about a defined one. I need a purpose, not a placeholder. This was the moment of friction. Not a yell, not a threat, but a line being drawn in the soul of the team. Caitlin, meanwhile, was in her own world, a world of repetition and rhythm. At the far basket, she kept shooting. Swish, swish, clang, swish. The same calm, focused expression. She didn't look toward the offices. She didn't glance at Paige. For her, this wasn't personal. It was basketball. It was the pure, unadulterated math of the game. And she was solving the equation, one shot, one pass, at a time. Her entire being seemed aligned with a singular focus. She had turned down lucrative off-season leagues, sidestepped drama, and navigated a whirlwind of public opinion, all with one goal: to play in the WNBA, to uplift it, to be part of its growth. This camp, this team, was the zenith of that pursuit. The coaches returned. Practice resumed, but the mood had undergone a seismic shift. Every possession in the next scrimmage felt loaded, evaluated under a new, more intense microscope. Every pass was a potential data point in an unspoken argument. Caitlin led another run. The result was the same. Seamless offense, easy baskets, a machine operating at peak efficiency. It was undeniable. Paige watched from the sideline. Her gaze wasn't resentful. It was analytical, aware. She was witnessing the crossroads every elite team inevitably faces. When a force of nature joins the roster, who adapts? How? And at what cost to the individual ego for the collective good? After practice, the players were dismissed unusually early. This never happened. The abrupt end sent a jolt through the gym. Phones, once locked away, now lit up instantly. Thumbs flew across screens. In the sanctity of group chats and private messages, speculation ignited and spread like wildfire. What's happening? Did you see Paige? Clark is running the show. Inside the facility, the meeting continued, now stretching into the evening. The word quit was never uttered. It didn't have to be. The possibility, the sheer daunting potential of a player of Paige Bueckers' caliber stepping away from a role that felt diminished, from a system where her unique brilliance might be partially eclipsed, hung in the air like a fine mist. It wasn't a threat. It was a reality of high-stakes team building. It was the leverage inherent in supreme talent. And this, the staff knew, wasn't about ego in the petty sense. It was about identity. Caitlin Clark wasn't asking for the spotlight. Her game was the spotlight. She was forcing the entire structure to confront a new reality. And when reality arrives that forcefully, not everyone is prepared to recalibrate their sense of self so quickly. By the end of the night, no announcements were made. No press releases clarified the roster. No coaches gave reassuring interviews. But the emergency meeting had happened. The rotations had changed on the floor. And the tension was a living, breathing thing in the facility, a silent third team sharing the court. Team USA hadn't just gained a new starter. They had triggered a reckoning. The question was no longer whether Caitlin Clark belonged. Her play had shouted that answer from the logo. The question, the haunting, fragile, all-important question, was how everyone else in that room, Paige, the veterans, the coaches, would choose to respond. Because when one player elevates the ceiling of a team so rapidly, so definitively, the ground beneath everyone else's feet inevitably trembles. And in that tremor lies the true test of a team's connection, of a coach's philosophy, and of the difficult, glorious path to gold. The bond would now be forged, not in harmony, but in the honest, uncomfortable, and necessary fire of adjustment.